This is a process that I developed at the request of a group of lawyers, much like you, to develop business. They needed a process because they needed to know what to do next. So I'm going to walk you through this process. But before we get into the process, I have a really important question for you all, and that is, who do you think you are when you think about marketing yourself and developing business? Do you think you're this guy, a shameless self-promoter, or do you think you're this other guy, the solution to a client's problem? Now, I'm going to let you all figure out which one I'm married to. But the point here really is that you need to have a powerful mindset. Nobody wants to hire a lawyer that is not confident. And if in your marketing you think you're the shameless self-promoter, you're not going to come across as confident, and it's going to be more challenging for you. And as we know, face-to-face interactions are the most effective and take the least amount of time. All right, so let's go back to the model. So the first thing you'll notice is that the model is not linear. And that is because business development is not a linear process. Sometimes you have to go back to where you started. And you do start at step one, obviously. Question, don't pitch. You know, something Susan has said and the other speakers have said as well. You've got to develop the relationship and find out about your client. Step two is to offer guidance. Step three is to make your pitch. Step four is to follow up with them. And step five, believe it or not, is to do great work. So the business process, development process, does not end as soon as they've signed the engagement letter, because you always want to get more work. So let's take a deeper dive. So question, don't pitch. This is where you develop the relationship. You want to ask open-ended questions. You want to listen. You don't want to be on send, because you don't want anybody to think that you've got "buy me" tattooed on your forehead. So don't go into your elevator pitch right at the outset. Instead, use those open-ended questions to identify points of pain. What is it that are keeping your prospects and your referral sources up at night? And what's most important is to remember to treat them like a client from the outset. So that means showing that you care about them. It means offering solutions, being a problem solver, and being a resource. Because the next step is to offer guidance. So you want to try to help. And I mean try to help even if the problem has nothing to do with your practice. Because you want to be looked at as a resource. It's absolutely critical. You want to show confidence, but don't be a know-it-all. I know you all know your areas of law really well, so maybe you do know that all. But you don't know your prospect's problem well enough to know it all. And anyway, no one likes a know-it-all. You want to interact consistently and regularly. So join groups and participate. Go to the same kinds of events, because you want to build that trusting relationship, and that happens when people see you on a regular basis. So invest the time. Build that relationship. And of course, continue to treat them like a client. So when you're offering guidance, here's where you want to focus on really clarifying what the prospect's problem is. Identifying their points of pain and figuring out whether they actually want to invest the time to solve the problem. People have a lot of problems. They don't always want to spend the resources to solve those problems. Because the next step is to let them know that you want the work. All right, so asking for the work is the part of the process that everybody hates. Nobody likes it. It's the most challenging. How many of you like asking for the work? Show of hands? Yeah. All right, a couple of you. Excellent. Well, you know that asking for the work it makes people generally uncomfortable. Here's the thing. You've got to ask for the work in 2 phases. The first phase is to just let them know that you're interested, willing, and able to ask to do the work, and that you want the work. The second phase then is to make the more harder ask. So how do you make the soft ask? You just let them know, I'd be honored to work with you. That's all you've got to say. Or, when would you like to get started? Or, I'd love to resolve this for you. After you've made the soft ask, you've got to make sure that you suggest and confirm a next step. This helps you, and it helps the prospect. It helps you because you're not sitting by the phone wondering when they're going to call you, or sitting by your computer wondering when they're going to email you. It helps the prospect because then he or she knows that you're really serious about working with them. And it takes one more issue off their plate. They don't have to worry about getting back to you. And that's the kind of relationship that you want to start with them, that they rely on you, because that is how you're going to build your business. All right, so next you make your pitch. Anytime you're making a pitch, you've got to ask the prospect, what do you need from this meeting? If you don't know what the prospect needs from you at that moment in the decision-making process, you're not necessarily going to deliver it. And then, of course, you've got to deliver it. All right. So remember, it's always all about the client. So even while you're making your pitch, you want to listen. You're going to hear new information, and you want to be able to use that information. If you go in with a team, you've got to make sure that you introduce everybody's brands, their expertise, so that they know why you're bringing in this team of lawyers. Your pitch has to be compelling. You've got to practice it. In fact, you've got to practice it so much that it sounds really natural, as ironic as that sounds. And be sure to discuss next steps. Remember, the transforming prospects into clients is a process. And the advantage to having a process is that you can move it along by being strategic. So know what the next step is, because the next step is going to be really important. It's going to be follow-up, and you want to set that expectation so that you don't feel like you're a stalker, as Christina said. All right, so make your pitch. All right, here's where you got to ask for the work. I know that most of you really don't like asking for the work, but you've got to do it. I can't tell you how many general counsels I've talked to that said, yeah, I was just waiting for him to ask for the work. You got to do it. Here's how you do it. Just say, when would you like us to start? Or you could say, we'd be honored to work with you. Would you like to hire us? Or ask, what is stopping you from hiring us? Now, this last question is absolutely critical if you think there's some sort of a disconnect. You want to clear up any kind of concern that they have in that meeting, because that may be the only meeting that you get. So make sure that you ask that. In fact, before you leave that meeting, be sure to ask them whether they've got any more questions about you or your services, because then you've got to follow up. Now, everybody has said this, use the phone. In this day and age of technology, we rely far too heavily on email. You want to use the phone because you want to hear the tone of their voice. You want to hear that they're just too busy to focus on it, or you want to hear that maybe you didn't address all the issues that they needed addressed. Offer additional ideas. Let them know that, I really appreciate that meeting. I learned a lot from you, and I've got some other ideas to share with you on strategy. And in fact, if you have to leave a message, make sure you leave that in the message. That'll get them to call you back. Be sure that in the follow-up, you ask what more they need from you to decide, because you want to provide that. You may be talking to the general counsel that needs to report to the CEO, and you've got to make sure that you support him and make it easy for him to go to bat for hiring you. Again, that's all part of the relationship. You are the person that makes the client, the general counsel, you make their lives easier. You let them sleep better. And sometimes all there is to do is to let them get back to you with a decision, and there's no more follow-up to be had. All right, so once they've hired you, you've got to do great work. This means continue to invest in the relationship on your dime. So visit them. Get to know their business. Don't charge them for every phone call. Anticipate their challenges. Know their industry. Be sure that you respond immediately. Remember, you're a resource. You want to be their go-to lawyer, the person that they rely on most heavily, the best lawyer they've ever worked with. And keep on clients' radar screens. Send them client alerts. Send them information about golf. Have lunch with them. Whatever it is that's appropriate in that particular client's circumstance. Because if you do that, you're going to get more work. You want to take a deep dive, meaning the more you know a particular client, the more work you can get from them, and you spend a lot less time getting more work from the same client than you do from going out and marketing to new clients. When appropriate, ask for referrals. Who else do you know that's in the same boat? Let your raving fans sing your praises. You want your clients to be your sales force. In some ways, that's how you credential yourself. And if you do this, you're going to get more and more work, and you'll have a lawyer's second biggest problem, which is too much work. All right, I'm going to wrap up with business development tips. So when you're networking, ask open-ended questions. Offer yourself as a resource, even if it has absolutely nothing to do with your law practice. Remember that getting no is okay. Not everybody needs a divorce, but almost everybody knows someone who might be getting a divorce. All right, remember, have a powerful mindset. Be confident. Know that you're the solution to someone's problem, not a self-promoter. Have a compelling elevator pitch. If you don't have one, or if you need to brush yours off, you're welcome to email me, and I'll send you the workbook that will guide you through that process. Remember to treat them like a client. Show that you care. Show that you want to make their lives easier. Be that resource for them, and be a problem solver. Remember the 80-20 rule. Only talk 20% of the time. Listen 80% of the time. Be committed, not attached. Work your plan. Stay committed to developing your business, but don't get attached to any particular prospect hiring you, because there's only one word for a prospect that doesn't hire you, and that's next. Be both tenacious and patient. Business development takes time, but you've got to be patient, because nothing happens on your time. It's always the prospect's time, and we all know that desperation is not attractive. All right. Remember, it's a numbers game. Fill that pipeline. Get known in your communities, and clients will hire you. All right, so I've said you've got to be a resource several times. This is because of the importance in the relationship and the trust that you are the best lawyer that they can ever work with, that they can rely on you. So make efforts to be a resource in all regards. And remember, it's about the relationship. Continue to invest in relationships with clients, with prospects, and referral sources. Now, we all know that none of this happens without a plan. You need your vision. What's your 3-year vision? What's your 1-year vision? How are you going to operationalize this? What are you going to do in the next 90 days? What are you going to do to build your reputation? And what is your single daily action? And when I say single daily action, I mean, what are you going to do every day or every week to build your business? Because we all know that business development doesn't happen when we have time. That is no way to build a business successfully. All right. So what questions do you have for me?